Okay, it is time to, yes, redo this video. There was issues with the previous one. I'm not entirely sure what happened, just because I basically recorded Minwoo as well as Prompto's reviews back to back. And over the last little bit, I've just been really busy with real life stuff, so I haven't had time to redo this review, but I'm doing it now. Let's get in and talk about Prompto. And Prompto is definitely a character that I feel like some people will have not the most welcoming open arms of all, and that's partially because of experiences with 15, or maybe they found the character slightly annoying, even though I think Prompto is actually a totally fine character. Pretty good friend. I think that game overall has some issues, but it is still a really well-made game for the, I don't know, first 70% of it, and then budget ran. But we're not here to talk about 15. Alright, so Prompto. As a character, Dark Element, you are a limited time character for the Final Fantasy 15 event. Move and jump 3 and 1 respectively, 90 cost. He has a Royal Gunner main job, basically a newer version of the Gunner job. Sub-jobs are Sniper as well as Assassin. And, yeah, a pretty good mix overall. I mean, Gunner, regular Gunners always have this problem of not just being able to go, which is kind of weird because you think that they would be able to do that. But line of sight is an actual issue for guns. And I think that it is overall, like, the problems that I normally have with Gunner are pretty nicely complemented when they have an Archer sub-job, which he does. He also has Assassin, which I thought I was going to like a little bit more, but as I've gotten more into this, looking at this unit's kit, I am less and less convinced that Assassin is something that I'm ever going to run, but that's okay. There's other good stuff here. Taking a look at his TMR, accessory camera, as you can see the stats here with some accuracy, critical on it. A bad piece of equipment. It also has a single-use 24 TP ability that decreases chance of being targeted and restores some CT for himself of about 250. It's a nice little ability. I don't think that this TMR is anything crazy. I don't even think it's really that good compared to some of the other free TMRs, but it's fine. You could throw this on a unit, on a different unit, and probably get the benefit of just some hate reduction on it, keeping a character safe, or maybe, and it also gives like them essentially access to another turn pretty quickly. So all of that is fine. All right. So I think the TMR is good. I don't think it's crazy, but I think it is darn good. And that might be just enough. And it will probably have its uses in the future. Taking a look at his limit burst, here's the animation. Damage, a 200% modifier, 43 AP cost, 3 hits on it, pretty good range, and a 67% chance to inflict poison. Makes for a really strong limit burst. Poison, I feel like, is just a really good status effect. When it can be used, incredibly advantageous to just let the enemy kill themselves by just taking their turns and having poison inflicted on them, but this still does a lot of damage, and it is dark chaining, and the dark element is always happy to deal more damage, so that's good here. It will be happy to have this limit burst, and it will synergize well with the dark element strategies that are coming out. But let's take a look at an actual version of Prompt. Of course, I have my own copy of him, and so far I've been mostly impressed. As you can see, I still haven't gotten him even to LB3 yet. Noctis is kind of in the way of that, having to make decisions, but as you can see, this is a general look at of his stats. That's not the button I want to click, that's the one I want to click. You can give an idea here for his resistances and everything, and now we're actually just going to switch over here to see a full 120 version. Give you a quick moment to here at these stats and give a sneak peek at resistances right here. And now we're just going to take him off this team and throw him on more of a dark elemental team to see how his stats change. So roughly looking at a pretty darn good team with a friend as well. 94 speed, over 5,000 HP, which is pretty good, even as a defense and spirit stat. Of course, equipment is factoring in that, but a 1200 attack is pretty good for a gunner, and his gun is a pretty nice inclusion to his kit, as it gives him an extra, when it's a +5, of 20 defense penetration for the characters. Very, very strong, especially once we look at the rest of his kit. Now we take a look at his resistances, and as you can see, when in combination with a bunch of dark elemental vision cards, he ends up being a pretty well-rounded, durable character. Spears, he is particularly good against. Other gunners, he is not bad as well. And with the right vision cards, he can also have magic resistance and light resistance too. So I think Prompto can, especially with the vision cards, end up being really, really nicely set up to be against other enemies, and particularly against some specific light enemies that may pop up as well. So yes, I do quite like Prompto's kit in the sense that it is I think that durability is still an issue with him, as it is a lot of the time for most gunners. But I do think that in terms of a lot of different gunners I've seen out there, he actually ends up being fairly still resilient against different types of damage without too much effort. So that's great. All right, taking a look at his jobs. We'll start with Assassin because I think it's the easiest one. He has the Steal ability, the Poison Infliction ability, the Paralyze Inflict ability, the Decreased Defense for the attack when attacking from behind, Absorb AP, and the Reduction of Defense. Now, the Reduction of Defense I think is the best one, but given that Prompto isn't exactly the most durable character, and he is still a gunner, I mean, he does have some unique tricks that we'll get into here, but I think that overall, Assassin is most of the time not the sub job you're going to run. At least not when you're letting the AI do it. But if you're manually doing it, maybe some neat tricks, and we'll talk about that in a second. Next up, getting into Sniper. And Sniper is one I think that is probably going to be the one you want to run most of the time. Not always. He has the range increase for himself for 3 turns and a defense penetration increase by 40 for 3 turns. Include that with the gun, you're looking at a pretty good amount of defense penetration just on this guy to begin with. Roughly about 60 and potentially higher. If you're running some kind of TMR or something like that, you can do pretty good defense ignore for a ranged character. Also has the decreased agility. He has the chance to disable enemy. He has the buff for attack and Nether Beast Killer. He has the paralyze other targets. And the last but certainly not least, his big one is the ability to dispel all buffs for targets, as well as dispel haste on an AoE attack. So basically, some really good abilities from the Sniper job ends up giving him some good damage potential, and some if rain or height is ever an issue in certain maps, he can get around it, still be dealing damage, and still be doing a good amount of buffs for himself before he's dealing the damage. So his Sniper definitely brings a fair amount to hit. Now, talking about his main job, this is definitely the one that you're always going to be wanting to run. There's just so many things. So he has an ability, 6 uses, 14 AP apiece, that has a chance to paralyze a target at 25%. He has a increased accuracy and agility. Accuracy gets increased by 30 for 3 turns, agility by 25%. 2 uses on it, 22 TP, but just good for getting this guy going at the beginning of battle. Next up, does have a buff for himself and surrounding allies of 40% for attack, and a range increase for allies too, which is kind of nice, just because sometimes you got those range abilities, you just want to give your allies a bit of a boost, and this will definitely do that. Next up, 25% chance to inflict blind on a 200% modifier. That also gets upgraded to reduce dark resistance by 25% into his EX, which is very good. A increased defense penetration by 40 for himself. Now, the way I understand this is that it should be that it's only for the attack, but I haven't tested this ability yet because I don't have it on my main character yet. I haven't had the time at the moment because I've been trying a little bit of just trying to get through fire selection quests. It's a little bit of more of a priority right now. But if it is a permanent buff, that would be really cool. But I don't expect it to be, because if he got an extra 40 plus the buff he could be running from sniper and the 20 he gets from his gun, this would be a gunner with 100% or 100 defense penetration. But he can get up to that, so kind of scary. Also, it is 165% modifier on this, but if the target has poison, blind, paralyzed, slow, or dark, you actually get an extra 60% modifier. So it's actually a stronger hitting attack, and it's only 24 AP. And the last ability, his job level 25 ability, a 165 modifier with 3 uses, 21 AP. That also decreases target CT by 15 and a 25% chance to slow for 3 turns. So yeah. Overall, my thoughts on his main part of his job. We haven't talked about the sub-main job yet. But overall, his main kit is really nice. Access to a lot of different status effects and some buffs for not only himself but allies as well. And he has ways of leveraging it too, meaning that his kit works very nicely together. But some really good modifiers and not the highest costs on a lot of his attacks, meaning that he doesn't necessarily need access to bells to function as good. He could use maybe one of the smaller AP regenerations. But we'll talk also about his AP generation second here once we get to support. But I think the main part of his main job is just... Now, what you give up for... sorry, I'm umming too much in this. And I'm gonna stop. There is some interesting part in the sub part of this job, which you may want to run. This damaging ability, as you can see, is a large AoE. It only has a 121% modifier, but has a 100% chance to attract targets by a single square. Also, I do believe this is the one that teleports him into the direct center of it. So if you were to use this in combination with Assassin, you might be able to do some really interesting stuff by bringing a whole bunch of enemies in towards Prompto and then him being able to stab in the back. Even if it's only a couple of enemies. Problem is it leaves Prompto very open to take a lot of up-close damage, but he has some good fire. So if you're planning ahead and you're controlling it manually, I think this ability can really rock. If not, I think there are problems with this strategy. But yeah, still kind of a cool idea. Next up, this one is the one I really like because this one doesn't seem to have any really big height restrictions. It's actually been, from what I've been testing it so far, pretty cool because it hits some enemies like really high up. It's just a debuff AoE ability that decreases attack and magic by 40%, approximately 40% for 3 turns, and defense and spirit for 3 turns by 20. Really nice debuff. All stats basically short of speed, and I think you could be running this ability just because it has such large range, and you can use this on enemies before he does damage, before your allies do damage. So this is very strong. And last but not least, is a damage ability that also decreases AP. It's not the greatest thing; it doesn't have the greatest range on it, but it is another ability that he has access to, and it only costs 20 AP. You're potentially hurting opponent. Getting into his counters, I mean, yes, he has the sniper counter, which gives him a chance to decrease accuracy on a target, and he has assassin, which increases evasion rate and speed for Prompto. But you're going to be wanting to run the main job counter. There's no question about it because it's reflex, and reflex is just basically one of the best counters since day one, and still one of the best counters. Fight me. But anyway, just evading all damage will also give this guy more ability. Alright, and support skills. I mean, the sniper range increase, and he has the sniper and assassin ones that are pretty darn good, It doesn't matter because you're going to be running his main too, because they are essentially a combination of his sub-jobs. First one is a increase of range by 1 and acquired AP by 50. This is why I also think that he is just going to be pretty self-reliant for a gunner, because he has access to just more AP gain without needing to use assassin specific one, because it's also giving him the range increase from sniper. But that's not enough. How about this too? This one increases missile attack by 15 and agility by 12%, which is basically a couple of other classes stuff just combined into. Yeah, Prompto's kit is, I actually think, very strong. Once again, just another great first copy unit where you get the first copy and then you have to rate the rest of him. I think he is really good. I think he's probably the best gunner in the game, patent pending, until further testing has really been done. Because the thing to talk about here is that his supports are just so clear, and so is his counter. Everything on his main job is just really good, and you have flexibility as to what you want to do for a sub job. You can run a really good debuff with good height, with very little height restrictions on his main job. You can run sniper for just giving him more defense penetration and giving him some more anti elevation issues or / height issues. Or you can run assassin and do the kind of teleporty thing, which is, no, wait, you can't, because that's on his sub part. Damn it, that would have been, I realized that too. This video, I forgot. I guess poo. Oh well. Either way, I still think that Prompto is a great character and a great get for people who are looking to continue the domination of the Dark Element. Dark Element has kind of wanted a good gunner, and this is a really, really good gunner. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on whether or not Dark gets super counterbalanced against, which so far, from my experience, not completely, kind of, but not completely. I think that there is enough here that Dark is still very, very strong on the side, but there are some other elements coming into the mix. Speaking of which, the Earth element is the one we'll be talking about next time, but that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Hopefully the audio came out better in this one.